Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well. So I decided it was a good idea to start filming at 1 a.m. in the morning. So we're going to go with it. And I'm going to be doing a book review today on The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This will be a non-spoiler book review. I want to try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Punchline, we're going to start there. I absolutely love this book. Like, I truly love it. This is my best read of the year, and I love this story because it is first of all, it's so well written. I mean, the writing is impeccable. I will read anything that Angie Thomas writes from this point forward because her writing style is one that meshes well with me, first of all, because it's a writing style, in my opinion, that I think really grabs the reader and really pulls you and puts you in that story. I feel like I went on this emotional journey, and there were points where it was heavy and I was emotional. I had to compose myself, and there were points where I laughed, I smiled, I reflected, and it was everything that I wanted it to be. Before I go further in the review, I do want to say that I buddy read this with Xavier from Charles Explosion, which, thank you for buddy reading with me, Xavier. And I'm so glad I did that. And I would highly recommend to anybody, if you have the opportunity to read it alongside a friend, I would highly recommend that, because I think it just added to the experience. Being able to process my thoughts and my feelings as I went along with this book, because I had tons, and being able to have somebody else to process their feelings and to kind of see where we lined up and where we were kind of different in our thoughts or things that we picked up on was so important for me as I read this story. It gave me an outlet to do that. And also there were things that he picked up on that I didn't necessarily pick up on. And I also just feel like this book is one that just invites a ton of dialogue. So I would highly recommend reading it alongside somebody if you have the opportunity to do that. And he read it an audiobook for anybody out there who does enjoy audiobooks, and he highly recommends the audiobook. I have not listened to it, but if I decide to read this story again, because you guys know I'm a huge rereader, I would definitely try it on audiobook. So the other thing that I liked about this story, and I actually pulled up our conversation because I just wanted to make sure that I didn't forget any of my major points with this story. So another thing that I loved about the book is that while it is fiction, which I think is amazing because I think it's going to draw in a ton of people, especially people who don't read a ton of nonfiction, I also think it, at some moments, it felt like nonfiction to me. And I would have to remind myself, like, wow, this is fiction. And I think some of that is that this, this story just hits so close to home. So this book, is loosely based around the Black Lives Matter movement. And in this story, we're following 16-year-old Star, and she witnesses her best friend, her childhood best friend Khalil, who was unarmed, be shot and killed by the police, and she was the only witness, and the story just kind of takes off from there. And that's not a spoiler, that's what the actual story is about, and it kind of takes off from that. And that's one of the things they tell you in the synopsis. And it was one of those things where, even though I knew Khalil was going to be shot and killed, the moment I kind of shut down, and I just needed to process. That was a heavy moment. And I just appreciate this story so much because I feel like I could just feel the love and the care that went into being intentional about how this story was told. And I appreciated that so much because as an African American woman, I felt like somebody just wrote my truth down on paper. And it was so important for me that that was done, and it was done intentionally. Also, with this book, I feel like I said, I do feel like at a lot of points it did feel like nonfiction to me. Don't let that scare you or pull you away from trying out this book. You just feel all of the ups and downs and the trial and tribulation that these characters feel. And I think that that is so important because I think that you will walk away from this book feeling so enlightened and having a new perspective that maybe you didn't have before. This book made me do a ton of reflecting. I also feel like the characters were so well written. Each character had depth and they had purpose and they had their own internal struggles that we watched them deal with or not deal with throughout the book. And I feel like all of these characters were so purposely done that they really served a purpose in the story. And another thing that I liked about this book is that I feel like this book, I'm a huge fan of a book that shows variation within a story, because I think that it's important, especially if you're somebody who's not in that, you know, that group, that race. I think it's so important to know that variation is in every story. You know, it's something that I have to remember as an African American. You know, I don't have the experience of being a white male or, you know, being a white woman. So I think it's important to remember that there's variation in every story. And I feel like she did an amazing job showing that variation in this story. The family dynamic was amazing. The family was very central in this book, and I feel like we don't get that a ton in YA, and so we really get to know the family, and I feel like we get to know them so well that you begin to care about them as well. And also when it comes to Star, I think that the character of Star was well done. Like, I feel like the character was so, first of all, she was very relatable for me for a lot of different reasons. She goes through a ton of inner turmoil that I could relate to, and I think it was important that she was the person who this story was coming from, and you can really see her struggle throughout the book. But I think that while this book was, you know, based around the Black Lives Matter movement, it covers a ton of topics from, you know, segregation and racism and police brutality. I think this story also talks about and really deals with family and community and coming together and using your voice and lifting each other up, confronting our own biases, you know, and being strong enough to recognize when we have biases, and first accepting that and then figuring out how do I begin to change that so that I can empathize a bit more with people who are not like me. And I love that she did that. I think that this is an amazing standalone, and I love how she wrapped it up. I think that it was done really well. It wasn't one of those endings that left me feeling like, you know, there were things that were left undone. I really felt satisfied with the ending. It really felt like a true ending for me, and I walked away feeling a bit lighter, a bit more hopeful, and I really felt like, okay, you know, this is wrapped up. At the same time, I would not be opposed to seeing more from these characters, maybe in a different story of some sort, because I really have grown to really like the characters, so I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more from the characters. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which let me pull that up in my notes really quick. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that so many of the interactions in this story, like I said before, it made me reflect. It made me think about different people that are in my life. Not that one character in particular made me think about a specific person in my life, but that I saw different aspects of people that I know and love in these different characters. And I loved that because I felt like this book really showed a side to the African American community that's not really talked about, you know, the love that's there, the community that, you know, can be present. Like I said, there's variation, but I love that it showed that. I think Angie Thomas just, I mean, this book is, I can't tell you how well written it is. I think this is a must read for everyone. I think this is by far my best read of the year. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I really feel like this book touched on systematic issues in our society very well. I don't think that it was done in a cruel way. I think it was done intelligently, but it was also not sugarcoated. A ton of issues that were highlighted in this book were not sugarcoated. They were shown and put out for what they are, but I think that they were also written in such a way that it didn't sugarcoat or kind of say like, oh, these are the issues, but they're not really issues. No, they're issues, and we need to accept that they're issues so that we can begin to change those things. Because if we don't, then we're just going to keep going in circles. And so I appreciated that that was done in that way in here. Also, in terms of romance in this story, I don't really think there's a ton. There is romance in the story. It's not at all the forefront of the story, but there is a romance element in the story. I thought it was written well. I really enjoyed the romance in the story. I didn't think that it overpowered the message or the purpose of this book or anything like that, but I think that it was appropriate and it was well done, and I enjoyed it as well as the other aspects of the book. So that is my quick review on The Hate U Give. I would highly recommend it. If there's anything that I didn't touch on that you're wondering about, please leave me a comment down below and I will definitely answer you back. So if you have read this book, please give me your thoughts down below. General thoughts, don't spoil anybody, but if you want to talk more in depth about the book, let me know and we'll have to start a thread for that, because I am down for doing that. I love this book. So I will see you guys in the next video and I hope you enjoyed the review. Bye.